YouTubers, welcome back to AZ2 Ozarks. Today I am out in the gigantic garden area, and I was talking to my mom on the phone yesterday, and she said, I haven't seen any updates on the big outdoor garden, and she was so curious what was growing, and so I thought I would do a little video to bring all of you up to date. There are obviously a lot of weeds, and all of this is essentially grass for the most part, and I am working on a plan for dealing with that. I'm actually trying to find a push non-motorized lawnmower with a bag catchment in order to work in this area, because it's a small area. All we have is a ride-on lawnmower. Obviously that wouldn't work in here. So you can't see it very well right now, but in this area, I have 8 different rhubarbs planted, and they've become quite overgrown, so they need some tending so they can do better. But you're not supposed to harvest them until the 2nd year anyhow. And then over here, I have black futsu squash planted in the middle of the grass. Now, my theory on planting the vining squashes in the grass was that I didn't want to use essential garden area for long vining things that could be out here covering the grass without any issue. So I do have my vining things out here. Additionally, I have all of my fruit trees that I got that were rootstocks. I've potted them because we weren't quite ready to put them into the ground because we don't have the fencing up yet. This is a loofah squash. I planted several there and only one plant came up, but that's okay because you'll see I have more planted. We will come back to the greenhouse. I've been weeding. Here is some pumpkins. I think there's 6 of them there, 6 of the plants, and I haven't had any flowers on them just yet, but they are looking really nice, and I'm hoping to have fall pumpkins there. Next is the first large area of the garden, and this is all corn. I think I have 5 or 6 varieties of corn here, and so the first variety is a Japanese black corn. And these are all heirloom, non-GMO. The seeds are tested by Baker Creek Heirloom for their integrity. And because I don't have a ton of space, they are all planted right next to each other, so their seed integrity won't be maintained, and I'll have to order new seeds next year. But that's okay with me. So first is the sweet black Japanese sticky corn. And then after that, I have some Country Gentleman that I had left over, as well as some Golden Bantam. Then I move on to the Atomic Orange. And you can see that I've already got ears of corn with silks. So this is, it's very small still. But here we are, knee-high by 4th of July. These are definitely higher than knee-high. The Atomic Orange, I would say, is doing the best out of all of the corn varieties as far as height and maturity of ears of corn. And then I move into strawberry popcorn. And so those ones have the pink silks. And that's hit and miss. I planted a whole lot of strawberry popcorn, and some of them are really tall and some are really small and kind of stunted. Not really sure what happened there, but hoping for a good harvest anyhow. Then I move into the bean section, and here I have lots of different green beans. I have a bunch of cowpeas. So I think there's 4 different varieties of cowpeas, including the black eyed peas that people are familiar with. This row is where I have a whole bunch more loofah. And then at the end, I think there's 4 plants of snake bean, which when those start to produce, I'm going to show you them because they are just wild. I guess they can be eaten like a green bean, but they're huge, like 4 feet long. I have some garlic here. And then this was my edible flower row. So these are, I think it's pronounced nasturtium. And I see my very first flower right here. Well, that's pretty. And then down at the end, I have calendula. See if I can get a focus. There we go. And the next row is okra. And we like lots of okra. And on these plants, they are getting ready to flower. So they've got just about ready to open up in flowers. And okra flowers are some of the most beautiful flowers, in my opinion. I really like them, so I'm looking forward to them. Another area out in the grass here, these are patty pan squash. And it looks like we have our first male flower there. So it doesn't have a fruit on it. That's just a male flower. We'll need some female flowers in order to get some patty pan squash. I have a row of sunflowers next. And this is interesting because the two ends grew much taller than those in the center. And I can only guess as to why that may be. Then I have 2 rows of peanuts. And these have been flowering. Now peanuts, how they form is when the flowers start to die off, they droop down into the soil, and then the peanuts form beneath the soil off of the flowers. So I have grown these before, and I think they're really neat. Here is a row of hot peppers. I have some jalapenos, and then I have hot banana peppers. I had a bunch of things that I planted because everything I started from seed, and some things when they were very small, I think they got eaten by rabbits. So this was an entire row of cherry tomatoes, and none of them are there anymore. So just this week I replanted. And a row of cucumbers. This row is my San Marzano tomatoes, and those are a paste tomatoes. So those are tomatoes that I'll be canning, making sauces and diced tomatoes out of. And then here, there's nothing much to see, but I have a few rows of peppers. I have hot peppers. Let's see, I have peach peppers, habanero peppers. I have all kinds of peppers, but you can't see them because the same thing happened to them. I think there's one right there. That's a Carolina Reaper. And there's a lone jelly melon plant over there. I have planted more, and I can see that they're starting to come up here. And I need to replant this row because I honestly don't know what I planted, and it's not there. So that was one of the downsides of the tags I had used. I used plastic tags for labeling everything, and I used a Sharpie marker, and within a couple weeks they were blank. So they faded really badly. Here I have a couple of cilantro, another row of sunflowers, another row of cucumbers, hoping to get lots of those so I can pickle them. I have 2 rows of potatoes, so there are red potatoes and Yukon Gold, and then I have a couple rows of sweet potatoes. Can't forget over here. Over here I have Sleeping Beauty melon, which is a type of a cantaloupe. And it has lots of flowers, but I haven't noticed any fruits yet. Up along the fence, I have some spaghetti squash plants. And over here, there is one variety of watermelon. I believe this is the Desert King watermelon, which is a golden flesh watermelon. Here is my lemon drop squash. It is a summer squash variety, kind of like a crookneck squash flavor. Here is a lemon drop watermelon. And one last one. This is rondinise squash, which is like a zucchini, but it's round in shape. So that concludes our outdoor garden area. When we first completed the building of the greenhouse, I was so eager to get all of my plants in that my rows were really crooked and the ground was uneven. So now that I am transitioning from certain plants to others, I'm working on straightening out the rows and making things more level. So that's what I've been working on over here. All I have left that's still growing is my purple basil, and otherwise I replanted this whole row with sweet peppers, and then right here I added in a couple of the lemon squash. But over here I have watermelon growing, and we do have our very first fruit here. So it's not very big yet, but we do have a fruit growing. Behind me, I have a bunch of tangled mess of tomatillo. And in the future, I will definitely do tomatillos differently. I would want to have like those tomato cages for them to grow in for support. Over here, I have nothing to support them, and they've just kind of fallen over. These ones I've kind of tried to string up to the top to give them a little bit of support, but I don't have that option out towards the end there. But we've been harvesting lots of tomatillos, and they're good. I have two different varieties. So at the end I have a yellow, it's an amarilla tomatillo, and then here I have a green tomatillo. And then I have my cherry tomato section, and I prune very heavily on these plants. So you can see that there just aren't leaves on the lower area. So I like to remove leaves all the way up to where the tomatoes are growing in order to focus energy on the tomatoes rather than on the leaves. And it has been working very well. And these plants are really tall. I'd say they're at least 7 feet tall at this point. Quite tall indeed. But these are a green variety of tomato. They're called green vernissage, and this one here is just about ripe. So they start to get a little bit of that yellow tinge when they are ripe, but you can feel that they're soft. And my youngest son was out here harvesting already this morning, so this would be a ripe green vernissage tomato. The next variety is a black vernissage, and there aren't any currently ripe, but they turn like kind of like a darker red. They're not really a true black. And then I have a bunch of the pink bumblebees over there, and you can see there's a bunch starting to ripen on those plants. Continuing down, I have a few more tomato plants. I actually used suckers to start these ones, so honestly I don't know which variety, though this one looks like it's Purple Russian, judging by the one tomato it has right there. I do have a calendula right there. They are supposed to be good companions for the tomatoes, and I planted a bunch of them and only one came up right there. Here I have a couple more hot peppers. This is a banana pepper and a jalapeno. Here is my little small eggplant area, and these poor plants were attacked horribly by beetles, and you can see that they are just a mess. The beetles, I believe, are now gone, so I'm hoping that they'll be able to recover, but you can see a couple eggplants there. This is a Chinese long variety of eggplant. Then I have my Purple Russian tomatoes, and these are a paste variety. They are very tasty, nice dense tomato, and again, they're very tall. Just past the Russian purple, I have Solar Flare tomato, and these put on great big tomatoes. These are your slicers for having on your hamburger and things like that, and you can see a couple are starting to ripen, but they turn to a really nice bright orange with stripes on them. And those are definitely a tasty tomato. Here I put in just recently a couple of Golden Jubilee tomatoes that I got from the local, I don't know, farm equipment store. So actually there's 4 of them. And we'll see how that goes. I kind of like having a variety of all the different things. Have a bunch of fennel here, and this is the first time I've grown fennel. So I haven't harvested any yet. I have harvested some of the leaves for herb, but it looks like they're getting close to being ready to harvest for the bulb. I'll be doing that really soon. In these beds, I left a couple of the purple bok choy just to finish off so they can put on their seeds. I do like to harvest seeds for next year of the plants that did really well and that we enjoyed. At the farmer's market yesterday, a gal gave me a couple tomato starts of a white variety, so I just got those into the ground, and a gentleman gave me a strawberry plant. So there's that. We harvested a whole bunch of potatoes out of here, but I do still have a few plants going. The potatoes turned out to be a favorite of the tomato hornworm, and you can see that they really devoured these. So I can probably dig up here and get those plants. But you can see the weeds are just crazy. And so I've used all kinds of different materials at the end here to try and keep the weeds down and out and away, and it hasn't been terribly successful. Though I did peek up under that cardboard there to see if it was killing off the grass, and it certainly was. It was doing a pretty good job, but it has made a perfect habitat for snakes. And so I kind of stay out of there. I believe that they are harmless, non-venomous snakes, so they're helpful. You know, they keep the mice and stuff out of the garden. But I don't really love being next to snakes, so there are snakes under there. I don't know if I dare try and show you anything here. I just put that box down yesterday, but I don't know. I can't get it all the way lifted up right now, but you can see it is pressing down and starting to kill the weeds. So I don't know, I have to work on that, but in a large garden space like this, it's really a big effort to keep the weeds pulled and down. So I think I've done a pretty good job of keeping them out of the beds. Here is kale. The kale just keeps on going. It has had some issues with caterpillars, but I'm not selling it at the market, so it's not really that big of a deal. And then I have a little bit of purple kohlrabi still going. And you can see that they're just about ready for harvest, a lot of them. In this area, I had my shallots, and there's a couple hanging on. However, I planted some purple hot peppers that are called Buena Mulata. And so I have 3 of those plants over here. And what is left of lettuce, and this is all going to seed. So I'm just letting it finish up so I can harvest seeds. We're definitely in a transitional time of year right now, and I haven't quite figured out how the seasons work in Missouri, but we'll get there. These are the Wasabi Radish, and they were really good. I enjoyed the Wasabi Radish, but I'm letting them go to seed so I can have more for the winter time. I feel like I was a little bit late on planting my cabbages, and there's definitely been a caterpillar problem, but I think the caterpillars are just about dying off at this point now that we're in July. So I'm just starting to form some small heads of cabbage, and the inner head seems to have been largely unaffected by the caterpillars. I have some za'atar oregano growing here, and a few onions I haven't harvested just yet. Some more lettuce that's all bolting. Here is some celery. We just keep harvesting more and more of that. The Chinese cabbage is not looking super great right now, but that one is going to seed. The cilantro has gone to seed, and I'll be harvesting today the coriander. So these little coriander seeds. This cabbage seems to be doing a little bit better and forming somewhat bigger heads. So they're still tiny, but I'm hoping we have time yet for them to form. There's some empty areas, some lettuce again, and then here I have my Thai red roselle, and the roselle is used for making teas. So that brings you to the conclusion. I've planted 2 more here. I will be switching out these plants here, and just I keep adding things, taking things out, rotating around, and try and keep everything producing as much as we can and stay on top of weeds and everything else. But hope you guys enjoyed this garden update. If you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to keep following our adventure.